Hello, I'm Scott Brown. I'm doing a segment for TBN here with Governor Ambassador Nikki Haley. We're at a locally owned business in Meredith, New Hampshire, and you're going to hear some slam banging around, and you see the stuff behind us. But listen, this is a functioning, really vibrant place in the Meredith community. And Governor/Ambassador, I want to say thank you for seeing us again. I know you participated in our first barbecue in Rye, New Hampshire. It was very well attended in the rain. We had it pegged about 380 people, and you did an amazing job adjusting and adapting. So what's happened since then?
A lot of blessings. I mean, truly, this has always been slow and steady wins the race. We have been smart about everything that we've done, and what we now have is momentum on the ground. We can feel it. You saw it at this event. We saw it at the event last night. We had over 350 people. I had over 2,500 people in South Carolina. We are now in second place in Iowa, second place in New Hampshire, second place in South Carolina. We just have one more fellow we got to catch up to, and we're determined to do it.
Good for you. I noticed in Ryan in the Portsmouth area, I obviously drive around everywhere. I'm seeing a lot more Nikki Haley signs.
I love that.
I see some Trump signs, quite honestly. I don't see really anyone else's signs.
Yeah.
So that is a good sign. And as you know, and the senator who introduced you said it, hey, you got to meet citizens from New Hampshire 3 or 4 times before they're going to say, yeah, I'm with Nikki.
And that's really natural for me because that's how South Carolina is. Like we're a very personal state. And New Hampshire's the same way. They're personal. They want to meet you. They want to talk to you. They want to ask you the hard questions. We've done over 100 town halls, and I'm the last person to leave. So we really have tried to build relationships and trust.
Yeah, I noticed upstairs, obviously, you met every person, which is very important. And, you took the time to look them in the eye and answer their questions, and not one of these when you're always looking off to the left or right. And they appreciate that. I can tell you firsthand. I've heard it. I have a lot of folks who are supporting you, and they obviously are working me pretty hard.
Love it.
Yeah, thank you. So what is the number one issue in our country? Let's go not number one. Let's do top 3 because there's so many. Top 3 things that you can do as a president. I know you have the executive order authority, but some of the things are going to require congressional, Senate, and House approval. What do you think you can get done to really right the ship because everything's upside down?
I mean, let's first start with the economy. I mean, you've got 60% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. 1 in 6 American families can't afford their utility bill. 50% of American families can't afford diapers. I mean, we're in a bad situation. So the first thing we have to do is stop the spending, stop the borrowing, eliminate the earmarks. I'll veto any spending bill that doesn't take us back to pre-COVID levels. That will save us trillions. The second thing is move as many federal programs as we can in D.C. down to the states. That will cut the size of the federal government, and it will empower the people on the ground. We've got to start treating these like taxpayer dollars and focus on what we're going to do to get our debt down. The second thing is we've got to get kids reading again. Only 29% of 8th graders in America are proficient in reading. We won't survive 10 years from now if that's the case. So we've got to get transparency back in the classrooms. We've got to start holding these kids back and making sure we're setting them up for success. I did that in South Carolina. We brought in, literacy coaches. That matters. Let's start putting vocational classes back in the high schools. Let's teach our kids to build the things we're making. And then we've got to have security, border security, and threats from around the world. We've got to close off that border. It is literally a dereliction of duty that 7 million Americans have come across that border. We are acting in America, acting like it's September 10th. We better remember what September 12th felt like, because it only takes one. We've got to secure the border.
It's interesting you say that. I listened to the press secretary for President Biden, and reporters ask questions about the economy. Listen, how can you tout Bidenomics when inflation is still high and gas prices are still high? They're much higher than they were just, the day before you got into office, and they keep saying, well, everything's going down. Yeah, but it's still up so dramatically high compared to where it was.
That wasn't just Biden. Our Republicans did that to us, too. You go back to that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill that expanded welfare. We now have 100 million Americans on Medicaid, 42 million Americans on food stamps. That's a third of our country. Republicans have to get this right, too. It's both parties that have gotten us into this situation, but it's only going to take one accountant to get us out of it.
That's great. I noticed you talked about China, obviously, at length. When I was the ambassador in New Zealand, I dealt with China every day, pushing back. Obviously, they're not playing by the rules. They never have. You saw it in the UN. What specifically do you think you could do? Is it a reach out to try to, establish some type of relationship? Is it a reach out through force, say, listen, if you don't do this, we're going to do that? How do you approach China?
I dealt with China, Russia, Iran, Israel, all of those countries every day at the United Nations. And what I did was I told them what America was for and what America was against. I didn't care if they didn't like me, but I wanted them to respect America. We need to stop being reactionary to our enemies, and we need to start letting them know what we expect of them. The first thing we would do is stop selling any U.S. soil to China and take back the land they've already purchased. Go to every university and say you either take foreign money or American money, but the days of taking both are over. Get that foreign intrusion out of our universities. Make sure that we tell China we're going to end all normal trade relations with you until you stop murdering Americans with fentanyl. You watch how fast they move. They need our economy. And we need to build up our military to the point that it's strong, because strong militaries don't start wars. Strong militaries prevent wars. China needs to know we're back, we're strong, and we're going to hold them to account. That's when they will get back in place.
I know your husband obviously served in Afghanistan. I served for 39 years, and I have a lot of friends whose kids have joined the military, and that just the morale is just so low. How do you build up the morale in the military to make people want to join the military, want to join our police forces, want to join our first responders? There's such a negative feeling about that and a portrayal by the public against those people. How do you deal with that?
It's why we have to have a new generational leader. We've got to leave the negativity and the baggage of the past and focus on what matters. When it comes to the military, what's an interesting thing is we're down 25% in recruitment. And what has typically happened is 80% of the recruits that we get are from military families. And for the first time, military parents are telling their kids, don't do it. The reason is, look at what's happening in the military. They're not mission focused anymore. I mean, for goodness sake, stop making them take gender pronoun classes. It's demoralizing to our military. Stop in all these programs that don't matter. Let's start focusing on cyber, on space, on artificial intelligence, on making sure that we're focused on the threats of the future and not living in the past. They've given all of these, diversity and equity and inclusion programs into the Department of Defense. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. And make America strong and proud again. We have to have people who come in just like they did after 9/11. My husband joined after 9/11 because they so loved the country, our freedoms, and our blessings that we have. We have to get back to that. The tone at the top matters.
Have you noticed, are you getting Trump, DeSantis, other people's folks coming over to you? Because I qualify that by saying I knew probably 70, 80% of the people up there, and she was with Christie. He was with DeSantis. Are you noticing folks breaking away from Trump in particular, President Trump, because obviously he's leading right now? What's the plan there, and what have you noticed?
In the last month, we've really seen that shake up to where people will come and say, I support the president, I voted for him twice, but we can't lose in November. And they're throwing their support to us. And what I have said is, I think President Trump was the right president at the right time. I was proud to serve in his administration as I served America, and I agree with a lot of his policies. But the reality, Scott, is chaos follows him. Rightly or wrongly, chaos follows Trump. And we can't, with the divisions we have in our country and the threats facing us around the world, we can't survive if we're sitting in chaos. We've got to get this right. And you look at the general election polls, and they show Trump, pretty much even with Biden. Maybe on a good day, he's 2 points up. If you look at my polls, we defeat Biden by 10 to 13 points. This is about not just winning the presidency, winning governorships in every state, winning the House and Senate seats up and down the ballot. We've got to really do a holistic cleanup of our country to get her back on track, and we can do it. America has an amazing ability to self-correct, but we have to all commit to that.
Yeah, listen, it's like I said, it's upside down. I'm 64. I've never seen things so in disarray. People not liking each other, not talking to each other. The whole woke scene where, you're basically shutting people down, not allowing any conversations in our colleges and universities, what they're doing to obviously, we're trying to find our hostage, family, and you see the things that are happening. How do we get by that? How do we actually go and have people start talking to each other, have free speech at our colleges? How does that happen?
I mean, the reason I'm running is I don't want my kids to grow up like this. I don't want them living in this situation. 81% of Americans right now think their kids are not going to live as good of a life as they have. We can't be okay with that. The tone at the top matters. It always has. And, you know, even through every crisis we went through in South Carolina, we had a lot of them, including the shooting at Mother Emanuel Church, which was on the heels of Ferguson that could have torn us up. We didn't have riots, we had vigils. We didn't have protests, we had hugs. The focus should always be, how do you bring out the best in people, not the worst in people?
So how do you bring it home in New Hampshire? And then obviously you have a lot of very big primaries coming up. How do you go from second to maybe sneaking in a first or two?
Well, we're in second in all of those, and the focus really is, if you look at the debate stage, you know, it's shrinking. So
three coming up.
We started with 8, and then it was 7, and then it was 5. I think next week at the debate it'll be 3. And so as those shrink, our numbers get bigger, and we can feel it on the ground. And we're going to fight for every Iowans vote, every Granite Stater, every South Carolinian, and every state after this. People have said, 75% of America has said they don't want a rematch between Trump and Biden. And so there's an opening there. And we're going to keep on working, and we're going to do a campaign that makes people proud. It's important. And we're going to finish this until the very end. I think we're going to have a few, 3 to 4 go into Iowa. A couple will drop. They'll have 2 to 3 going to New Hampshire. A couple will drop, and then I'll take on Trump in my home state of South Carolina.
Governor, Ambassador, good luck.
God bless you. Thanks.
God bless you.